Have you ever wondered how a man who made the entire world laugh carried so much sadness within himself? How the face that defined joy for millions was shaped by hunger, abandonment, and silence? Today, we are going to look at some incredible footage in the form of videos and images from that very time, capturing the fragile beginnings of a boy who would become the first true icon of global cinema. Before the applause, before the fame, before the unmistakable silhouette of the cane and bowler hat, there was a child walking alone through the harsh streets of London, fighting not for stardom, but for survival. To understand Charlie Chaplin, we must step back into the late 19th century, into a London that was far less romantic than the postcards suggest. Industrial smoke filled the air. Poverty shaped entire neighborhoods, and survival depended on luck as much as effort. Chaplin was born into this uncertainty. His father, a singer, drifted away into alcoholism and absence. His mother, once a performer herself, struggled deeply with mental illness. When she was eventually taken to an asylum, Charlie was still just a boy. By the age of 7, he was sent to a workhouse, an institution designed for the poorest and most forgotten members of society. It was not a place of warmth, it was a place of discipline, hunger, and emotional isolation. And yet, it was here that something extraordinary began forming. Chaplin became an observer. He watched how men who owned nothing still tried to straighten their backs when they walked. He noticed how humor could briefly soften humiliation. He studied the way pride survived even in desperation. These were not lessons from a classroom, they were lessons from life. Years later, when audiences fell in love with the tramp, they were not laughing at a fictional character, they were connecting with a reflection of real struggle, performed by someone who understood it intimately. When Chaplin eventually found his way to the stage and then across the Atlantic to America, he did not arrive as a polished star. He arrived as a determined performer, carrying years of hardship. Early Hollywood was chaotic and experimental, still discovering what cinema could become. Chaplin's style stood apart immediately. He relied not on dialogue, but on movement, on subtle gestures, exaggerated expressions, and precise physical timing. In silent film, he found something powerful. Silence speaks to everyone. Within a few short years, he went from earning modest pay to becoming the most recognizable human being on the planet. In an era before global media networks, his image crossed borders effortlessly. The tramp became universal. But Chaplin was more than a performer. He was a strategist. He quickly realized that fame without control could be dangerous. Refusing to let studio executives dictate his creative direction, he co-founded United Artists, ensuring that he would maintain authority over his work. This decision reshaped the industry. He was known for his perfectionism, sometimes filming hundreds of takes to perfect a single moment. To outsiders, it seemed obsessive. To Chaplin, it was necessary. Every movement carried meaning. Every stumble had rhythm. In films like The Gold Rush and City Lights, he proved that laughter and heartbreak could exist within the same frame. Audiences did not just watch his films, they felt them. As the world entered darker times in the 1930s and 1940s, Chaplin's courage became even more evident. While many remained silent about the growing threat of fascism in Europe, he chose confrontation through art. In 1940, he released The Great Dictator, boldly mocking Adolf Hitler at a time when such satire carried real risk. The film's final speech broke away from comedy entirely. Chaplin spoke directly to humanity, urging compassion, unity, and peace. It was not just a cinematic moment, it was a moral statement. Yet standing for something often invites backlash. During the Cold War, his outspoken views and personal controversies led to intense scrutiny. Eventually, he left the United States and settled in Switzerland, effectively exiled from the country that had once celebrated him as a national treasure. Despite exile, Chaplin's influence only deepened. Today, in 2026, the image of the small man with the cane remains instantly recognizable across cultures. In a world dominated by digital effects and artificial intelligence, there is something timeless about his raw humanity. Modern comedians still borrow from his physical storytelling, whether consciously or not. His performances remind us that technology may evolve, but emotion remains constant. Chaplin's comedy worked because it was rooted in truth. Truth about poverty, dignity, love, and resilience. Perhaps the most remarkable part of his journey is not the fame or controversy, but transformation. The boy who once wandered hungry through London became a symbol of hope for millions. He turned personal pain into shared laughter. He showed that vulnerability could become strength and that humor could challenge injustice. Charlie Chaplin was not perfect. His life was complex, layered with both brilliance and flaws, but it was undeniably impactful. As we look back at these rare images and moments captured from another era, we are reminded that greatness often grows from hardship. Chaplin once said, "We think too much and feel too little." His life urges us to do the opposite, to feel deeply, to care bravely, and to never underestimate the power of a single individual to influence the world. So when you see that familiar silhouette against a black and white screen, remember the journey behind it. Remember the child in the workhouse, the perfectionist behind the camera, the artist brave enough to speak when others remain silent. And ask yourself, what part of Charlie Chaplin's story inspires you the most? His comedy, his courage, or his resilience?